Welcome back, everybody, to our second session of Soundarya Lahari. We'll start with a short meditation, as usual. Sit tall with head, neck, and trunk in a straight line. Bring your awareness within. We'll take 3 breaths. Inhale deep. And with complete awareness, exhale completely. Inhale deep. Exhale. And one more time, deep inhalation. And exhale. Very good. We'll start with a few prayers. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryandam Vande Guru Paramparam Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvikhnam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Om Shri Matre Namah. Welcome back, everybody. So today we will do a quick recap of our first session, and then we will go a little bit more deep dive into the topic, who is Shakti? So let's look into the recap of the last session. So last session, we saw Soundarya Lahari is a stuti or stotra kavyam by Adi Shankaracharya. And it is a stuti, a stotram that has all 6 lakshana included in it. Amazing composition by Bhagavad Padar. We also saw that it has 2 sections. The first section, 41 verses, called Ānanda Lahari, which is much more esoteric in nature, talking about the tattvam of the mother goddess, Devi. And the second session, second part, which is known as Soundarya Lahari, which is the 59 latest slokas, they are comparatively easier, showing the head to toe physical appearance of Devi by Shankaracharya. And there is the story that we also talked about, where Shankaracharya visited Kailasa to see Shiva and Shakti, Parvati, to get their blessings. And they gifted Shankaracharya with 4 lingas, with which he has established 4 mathas in India. And also he was given a scripture, Soundarya Lahari. But at the door, Nandikesvara stopped Shankaracharya and took half of the book, which is the 59 slokas. And Shankaracharya prayed Devi. Devi said, don't worry about it. And you can now go ahead and compose the remaining 59 slokas. Some people texted me saying that, okay, these are like mythological stories. Yes, of course, these are stories. But the message of the story is that because these 2 sections are with a very stark difference between the Ānanda Lahari and Soundarya Lahari, the way that it is written, the story kind of goes with that. So that is all you need to take, nothing more read into that. And then we saw that what is Saundaryam? We looked into what's the definition of Saundaryam. Anything that where you are actually getting into an awe or anywhere you are losing yourself, that is what that feeling is, that Saundaryam, that where you are experiencing that Anandam for even if a split second. That's the Anandam. And that Anandam where we see with the physical object right now, it's something that we can explain. But here, what we are talking about, the Saundaryam of Mother Goddess, Devi, is we cannot use words to explain her beauty. That's where we ended the session. And we also, finally, we looked into the sadhana, for this Navaratri time. We did one stotram, one slokam actually, 97 slokam. We said we will have to chant this for 10 times during Navaratri time, and I hope you all did that along with the mantram, Om Namah Shivaya, and Guru and Ganesha mantram as well. With that, happy Mahanavami greetings to all, and I hope Mother bless you all with her grace, and we all get that for this session, and we continue to get that for all the sessions upcoming. Now, let's look into the second part of this. Who is Shakti? So we'll do a double click of the definition of Shakti, or understanding her a little bit more detail. Before explaining Shakti, we have to start with what we know or where we are. So there are a few more words that we need to explain. One is Īśvara, another one is Shiva. Obviously, we have to talk about Shakti. And then there are Devatas and what we see around us, the Prapancham. So there's a lot of things that would go together. So we'll unbox it one by one, very, very logically. And Tantra talks logical, like very logical explanation. We will go through one by one. Let's start with Īśvara. You all heard the word. And if anyone who is following Sanatana Dharmam, if we have to ask, where is Īśvara, or what is Īśvara, or who is Īśvara, usually it comes with two definitions, two answers. The first answer, people usually would say that Īśvara is within me. Īśvara is it's inside me. So that's one answer. The second answer that usually you get is that Īśvara is everywhere. Īśvara is in everywhere that we see in this Prapancham. Every single Paramanu has Īśvara. So there are two answers, seemingly opposite, but if you look the second definition, where Īśvara is everywhere, in every single Paramanu, that includes me too. So it's pretty much the same answer. So the second one kind of encompasses everything. So now that Īśvara, which is everywhere, which is Nirguna, Nirakara, the Vedantins call it as Brahman, not Lord Brahma, but Brahman or Parabrahmam. That's what the word is. Now, Tantric would call it as Shiva. The moment that you heard the Shiva, you went to that Trimurti Shiva, who is the Bhasmadharini. No, not that Shiva. The Shiva in Tantram is different from Shiva in Puranam. So this Shiva is the same Shiva, same thing that the Vedantins are calling Parabrahmam, that infinite thing, which is everywhere. So that is Shiva. And that Shiva is just like Vedantins would explain, it's Nirguna, Nirakara, Parabrahmam, or Shuddha Chaitanyam that is spread everywhere. So that infinite Īśvara, and now we have the word Īśvara, Brahman, Shuddha Chaitanyam, and Shiva in Tantram, they are all the same thing. That we are referring the same thing, different words for the same thing, same infinite Īśvara. So we kind of established that Īśvara. Now, if it is the same, but I see me different from Rajesh ji to Ramanathan uncle. So every single person is different though. The tree is different from, the bug is different from, the river is different from, the mountain. Whatever I see is different. So what is the connection between the infinite that you're talking here, Īśvara, with what I see, which is everything is different? So Tantra has a good explanation or logical explanation where we start with this Shiva or the Īśvara to the one that we see as different. That you all heard about in science, you heard about the Big Bang. Tantra has a very, very equivalent explanation. Tantra says that this Shuddha Chaitanyam, Nirakara Nirguna Shuddha Chaitanyam, there is a big bang happens in the Shuddha Chaitanyam, and that big bang in Tantra it's called Spandanam. With that Spandanam, it transforms into the Prapancham that we see. So the Prapancham that we see is the result of a Spandanam that happens within this Shuddha Chaitanyam. And that process, Tantric used a model which is available during the time that the rishis were. During the time, that process, they call it as a Panchikaranam process. And because of that process, Panchabhuta is formed. And the Prapancham is a combination of this Panchabhuta. Prapancham comes from the word Prapancham, Praharshena Panchikaranam process. So that's how the Prapancham is formed. So now the Prapancham is, we know that everything is made of this Panchabhuta. The model, one of the models is the Prapancham is made of this Panchabhuta. Now, if this Panchabhuta are Akasham, Vayu, Agni, Apa, which is Jalam, and finally the Prithvi. These are the Panchabhutam. And the only difference that the Tantrics say is that in the structure of the Paramanu within these Bhutas. So let's take one by one. We know that we are hearing that first thing Īśvara, the Shuddha Chaitanyam is everywhere, in everything. Every single Paramanu has that Shuddha Chaitanyam. So that one is everywhere. Now because of the Spandanam, this first thing that happens is Akasham. And when we say Akasham, it's not the sky that we see up above, not that sky. It's ether, or it's the tattvam where our thoughts travel. You can think of like here, sitting here, my thoughts can go to India in split of a seconds. That's the medium. We are talking about that medium is called the Akasha Tattvam. The Paramanus are condensing. So the way that the explanation is that the Shuddha Chaitanyam condenses from into a subtle stage to a gross stage, which is the Pratītatam, grossest stage, or the more closest dense stage is the Prithvi Tattvam, and the subtle stage is the Akasha Tattvam. So in Akasha Tattvam, the thoughts can travel anywhere, such a faster pace. And as it is moving from the first Bodham to the Prithvi Tattvam, the limitations increase. The three limitations that Vedanta talk about, the limitations are time, space, and object. So these three limitations increase as the things condenses into more physical nature. So we talked about Akasham. Then next is the Vayu Tattvam. Vayu condenses, it's even more denser than the Akasha Tattvam. It can travel, but it is more dense. So Vayu, it can travel anywhere, but it's not in the same level as the Akasha Tattvam. It condenses again to the third stage, which is the Agni Tattvam. So the Agni, the Swabhavam of Agni, if there is no other wind or any other nature coming in, its own nature is to go upward. So Agni always travels upward. So there is that Swabhavam, and again, it condenses more than Vayu. The fourth one is Apas or Jalatattvam. Jalatattvam, again, more condensed stage, and that one the Jalam travels only downward. Again, it condenses into the solid state, the Prithvi Tattvam. Prithvi Tattvam is not Bhumi, it's actually anything that is in the completely solid state is called Prithvi Tattvam. The diamond or anything that you're the table that I see in front, this computer, anything that is solid is in the Prithvi Tattvam. So what we are learning is that from the Nirguna Nirakara Shuddha Chaitanyam, a spodam or a spandanam. The word tantric use is a spandanam, a chalanam, a movement happens. And because of that movement, the panchikaranam process and the panchabhudam are formed. And the combination of the panchabhudam is you, me, the river, the water, everything that we see in this prapancham is made of that panchabhudam. So it looks like it is different, but they are all the transformation of that same Shuddha Chaitanya. So far with me? Now we have to define what is Shakti. So Shiva we already saw. That Shuddha Chaitanyam, Parabrahmam, is called Shiva. Now that Shiva we said it is Nirguna Nirakara. So it cannot have any guna. So now that power of that Nirguna Nirakara Shuddha Chaitanyam to transform into this Panchabhudam, that power is called Shakti. So in a way, it is, again, the Prapancham is not created, it's actually transformed from the Shuddha Chaitanyam. But in a way that you can say that because of that Shakti, the Prapancham is formed. If the Shakti is not there, Shuddha Chaitanyam is the only thing that is existing. There won't be anything, the touching and feeling kind of what Prapancham that we see, it will not be there. So because that power created or is the power behind the Prapancham, that and what do we see in Prakriti? In anything that is of a creative power, we see that as a female form. Females give birth to child. So the rishis called that Shakti, that power, the rishis called it Shakti. So that is the Shakti is a Jagan Mata. So it is symbolized as Jagan Mata because the mother is that if we look into the Prakriti, anything that is creating its offspring is female in nature. So that's why the rishis call that Shakti Jagan Mata, and that is the mother goddess we are referring here. So we established Shiva. The word Shiva is the Shuddha Chaitanyam, and that Shuddha Chaitanyam doesn't have any Akaram, any Gunam, any Rupam, and from that's transformed into the Prapancham that we see, that Spandanam, that power to transform, that power, the Shakti is the Jagan Mata, or that and now we talked about, this Shakti, is it different from Shiva? Actually, it is not. So this, in order to explain the power, we are using the two words as Shiva and Shakti, but in Ardhanarishwara Sankalpam, Kameshwarangastanilayam, all these words refer that Shiva and Shakti are two sides of the same coin. It's not two separate things. Just like we cannot separate the heat from fire, it is within. Both are the two sides of the same truth. But because that Shakti, if in this kavyam, because of that Shakti is because of her, that is the whole Prapancham is formed, we are praying to her as the Jagan Mata. We are symbolizing that as Jagan Mata, and that's the Shakti element. So we established Shiva, we established Shakti. And we also talked about what is the Prapancham that we see. So from Prapancham, from a subtle nature to a physical nature, that transformation is what makes you and me and everything that we see. So now in Tantram, because it is the transformed state, Tantram consider everything as divine. You are divine, I'm divine, the tree is divine, the mountains are divine, because everything is a form of the same Shuddha Chaitanya. So the Vedanta use a method where we want to understand that Shuddha Brahman using the method Neti, 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 but because that is not the Shuddha Brahman, everything through a negation process, Vedanta try to understand Shuddha Brahman, but Tantra uses a different method. Tantra uses the method of saying iti, iti, iti. Everything is divine. So you are divine, I am divine, the tree is divine, everything that we see is in divine. So that's the basis of all the Siddhantam in Tantra. And we have a few more words to explain. So let's talk through that Spandanam, that Chalanam, that movement. That initial movement is called Omkaram. So that's the Adi Brahman, Adi Brahma Shabda Brahman is called Omkaram. And rishis separated, rishis also saw different Spandanam, that there are so many Spandanas, right? Like everything that we see or touch or feel has a different Spandana. And with that Spandana, and when the Prapancham is formed, it has three characteristics. It has Rupam, it has Gunam, and it has the Vastu. So it has a character. So these things comes as part of this Panchikaranam process. So this Spandanam is called mantram in Tantra. The mantram is a huge word used in Tantra. This Spandanam is the mantram. Now, the mantram, Omkaram, we said that's the initial Spandanam. Not only the Omkaram, but we have many other Spandanam that is in Tantra, that is available to human beings to hear and pronounce. So those Spandanams, the rishis separated and they called it as, they segregated into 51 different Spandanas. Those 51 different Spandanas become 51 letters of Sanskrit, 51 aksharas of Sanskrit. Akshara is not the writing that we are talking about. Akshara is the Vaikiri, the sound is what we are talking about. So those aksharas are the Spandanam that the rishis could hear. Again, the rishis understood all this not using any external instruments, but by doing tapas, by internal tapas is what they understood all these elements. So now they also recognized that the combination of these letters, of these aksharas, becomes a particular gunam. So some of these letter combination has a gunam, and that letter combination, the akshara combination, become so many different mantras. So Om Namah Shivaya that we are talking, that we chanted last week, is one of the mantras that rishis saw, not rishis invented, but rishis found that in the Prakriti. They, with their tapas shakti, with their meditation, during their meditation, they found that particular sound combination, that particular aksharam combination has a particular gunam. Because when because of the Panchikaranam process, when things becomes condensed, those things have now gunam. The Shuddha Chaitanyam didn't have gunam. So now all these vastus, when it becomes, first thing that happens is the Spandanam. And that Spandanam is the basis of the mantram. And this mantram has the guna. And this mantram has gunam. This mantram has rupam. And that rupam is the rupam of the devata. This different mantram has different rupam, different, so we have mantram, rupam, and gunam. All these are devatas. So, for example, we know that if we want the vidya, we pray for the devata Saraswati. If we want to remove obstacle, we know that we pray to Vikneshwara. So all these devatas, they have a mantram, they have a rupam, and they have a guna. So when we chant these mantras, this particular gunam in us increases. So that's the mantra shastra. The basic mantra shastra is that we chant this particular gunam, and there are so many gunas, there are so many devatas. We talked about a few, but we know that we have 33 koti devatas. So all these devatas have individual different gunams. So when we pray, when we chant, these creates the vibration in us, and those vibrations increases the gunam of that devata in us. So that's the basis of mantra chanting. And the why then the question is that we explained the Shuddha Chaitanyam, we explained how the Prapancham is formed, but we don't feel that Īśvara Sankalpam in us. We don't feel that we are divine. The reason we are not feeling that we are divine is because of our vasanas, because of our impurities within us. So these mantra chanting can increase the gunam in us, and one of the gunam is to remove these obstacles, remove these malam, remove these impurities, and to purify us. And that's one of the Om Namah Shivaya is to purify these impurities within us, or the vasanas within us, is what this particular mantra Om Namah Shivaya is used. So we talked about the rishis finding these mantras. So each of these mantra, one particular rishi is the first one. We call it as a dreshtava because they are not sreshtava. They are not created. They are receiving these spandanas because these spandanas are in this prapancham. These spandanas they see in their with their inner eye. These rishis see that. So each of these mantram there is a there is a rishi, and then each of these mantram also has we call as a chandas, which is the pattern of this spandanam, or the meter of that mantra is the chandas. And we also know that this mantra has devata. So those who chant mantra, you already know there is a Rishi Chando Devata. Before chanting mantra, some of you, if you have taken Diksha, you might have been doing that. And along with that, they have a few more other things called Bijam, Shakti, Kilakam. We'll talk about that later. But these are the basis of mantra, Shiva, Shakti, Devata, and mantra. One more thing before I hand it over to Rajeshji. These if there a good example to understand this concept is electricity. So when we talk about the Īśvara and Devata, we said that different Devatas has different gunams. And we are trying to pray to get that gunam. So in order to understand the difference in Īśvara and Devata, one of the good example told to me was that electricity and different instruments that are connected to the electricity. For example, electricity considered as Shuddha Chaitanyam. Again, every example is an example. It's not the same thing as what we are explaining. Okay, so you have to take it as an example. So the electricity compared to the Shuddha Chaitanyam is it has no gunam, right? It is there. We cannot touch it, we cannot feel it. But when it passes through a bulb, you are getting a gunam of light. When it passes through a fan, you're getting the gunam of the air circulation. And the different instrument that it is passing through, you're getting different gunam. But the electricity behind is exactly the same thing. Now, where does the Shakti comes in? The capacity of the bulb to light up using that electricity is that Shakti. So there is a capacity, there's a power to convert that into light, or the air circulation in the fan or generator, whatever that instrument that we are using. That's a good example to understand the Shuddha Chaitanyam as Shiva, and the Shakti and the Devata, because this you won't go to if you want to get light, you won't turn on the fan, and vice versa. So if you want to get that particular gunam, you would use that particular device. But that capacity to convert that electricity to the light or the air circulation, whatever that is, called Shakti. Okay, so that's a kind of a good example to understand the Shakti, Shiva, and Devata. With that, I hand it over to Rajesh ji, and then we will end with our sadhana.
Thank you, Jeena. That's a great introduction. Only thing I would like to add is Vedanta, Tantra, and the beauty of the Sanatana Dharma is we have a variety of paths or schools. The objective of all these schools are the same. The objective of all these schools are take you from where you are and connect to your fullest potential. So the problem is when we study each of these school has different vocabulary, technical terms, everything. So we should be using that technical terms or the meaning of that technical terms when we try to understand that school. Otherwise, it is going to it will fail because you create only confusion. And that is the reason Jeena spent a considerable amount of time or the entire class explaining the key basic technical terms. So we talked about Īśvara as pure consciousness here, which is also known as Shiva. That is Shiva from a broader sense, not Shiva as Rudra or one of the Trimurtis, but Shiva as the entire being. That is the point. And that is refers to the infinite consciousness. And then one of the specialities of the Tantra, which you usually don't see in Vedanta, is the term Shakti. Shakti is that which creates or manifests this without that Shakti, you cannot experience Shiva, because Shiva is the very subject. It cannot experience, it cannot act, it cannot do anything. So that power is termed as Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. The ability to think, the ability to know, and ability to act. This is what is Shakti. And that Shakti is represented in the form of a feminine form as a mother form. That is the beautiful, beautiful vision of the Tantra. And this is what we are worshipping. And this Shakti is that primordial Shakti which works with Shiva. And later Jeena is going to explain who is the individual Devatas. Devatas are only a subset of this, but the Adi Parashakti is that primordial Shakti which helps to express that infinite consciousness into the names and forms and the beings in the world. So this is the unique idea of Tantra, which is not usually in Vedanta, because Vedanta you don't see that Shakti element. The Shakti and Shiva, everything is referred as one. So that is one thing. And then we talked about the beautiful idea of Spodana or Spandana. That is the process. You can see that very similar to the Big Bang. So that infinite, how it gets manifested. Tantra has its own interpretation, and this is a logical interpretation, beautiful interpretation, how the Shakti turn into the various names and forms of the universe. And Panchikarana, you can see that in Vedanta and Tantra. And one more thing is that when you hear the Panchabhuta model, don't think that it is an outdated model. This is only a model. There is nothing more than that. So we have to understand this as a world view, which is like thousands of years back. So thousands of years back, the way the material world was explained is using a particular model called Panchabhuta. Panchabhuta, so some people say that, oh, it's only 5 elements. Now I know 102 elements or 103 elements. If you take 103 elements, that model easily, it can be fit into this. So let's separate the model versus because the model is used only to explain how that infinite get transformed into subtle, and from subtle, more physical. So that's another point. So let's not get confused by these terminologies. Panchabhuta is probably the simplest explanation. You can see that in the ancient Greek mythology or the metaphysical models also. You can see the Panchabhuta model, and that was the ancient model. And when you use that ancient model, you can see that how the infinite first came into Akasha, meaning like state of nothingness, if you consider that as material. Then it comes to fire, air, then the Jala and the Bhumi or Prithvi. So you can consider it as different states of matter. That's one way of looking at it at. You can see the matter expresses in different state. One could be plasma, where the particles are really far apart, and then you have gaseous state, and then you have liquid state, and then you have solid state. If you see, that is the order, like how everything happens. So this model, keep in mind. So please keep these terminologies somewhere handy, so that when we explain the shloka, that shloka needs to be looked at through these lens. That way it will be very clear. And any questions, let's address that during the Q&A. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Rajeshji. Now we are going to go into our sadhana part. Our goal is, if you understand, our goal is to understand that Shuddha Chaitanyam, or feel that Shuddha Chaitanyam ultimately. But it doesn't have to be straight away that, right? Because Tantra actually talk about yogo bhogo ratam tantram. So all these gunas that we are talking about, we need all those things in our day-to-day life. It is okay to have that material well-being. So we need all these different material well-being, and then ultimately this also is used for self-realization, where we feel that right now in the Jiva Avastha, where I'm in the Prithvi Tattvam. Prithvi Tattvam, my consciousness is like the I-ness. So me alone is that consciousness right now I have. Where I wanted to go is that everything is I. Like Akhilam is me. Like to that Shuddha Chaitanyam. That level is where I want to go to. So it is, you can think of that, it is a reverse process. Panchikaranam process is where the Shuddha Chaitanyam kind of transformed into the person as me, where I want to go the reverse process, where I want to feel it's not the I-ness, but the akhilamness, that everything is me. Like all the whole prapancham is me, is that kind of awareness is where I want to go to. So in order to touch and feel and experience it, the way that rishis used was tapas, doing this sadhana. And this is the simplest sadhana we can start with. Of course, there is this very elevated sadhana sampradaya, but what we are starting is that the simple sadhana, where we can start feeling within Devi within us. And for that, we need three major things. One is Shraddha. So you cannot have bhakti overnight. Of course, this is not a love at first sight, right? Bhakti is, for some people, it could be like Ramakrishna Paramahamsar and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, people like that, yes, it is like that. But then for the regular people like you and me, we need to kind of cultivate that. In order to cultivate that, there are three things that are important. The first thing is Shraddha. So whatever we are doing, we need to do it with the ultimate that bhava of attention. Like whatever we are doing, bring your complete awareness to whatever that one thing, whether it is meditation, not only for meditation, anything that you do it with Shraddha. So that's one thing. The second and third thing are bhavam and bhavana. Bhavam is the attitude. What kind of attitude you want to do, especially that is why I picked for today's sadhana for verse 27. And for many of you who are learning Bhagavad Gita, it may resemble to something that you have heard. And this is also the first sloka that I came to learn from Soundarya Lahari as well. So the second thing is the bhava, the attitude with which you are doing the prayer. We will talk about that bhavam in that verse. And the third one is actually the bhavana. So at this point in time, I don't feel that I am that Shuddha Chaitanya. I feel that it is just me, my body, the mind, my problems, all that thing I'm feeling. But in order to get to that Shuddha Chaitanyam, we have to do a lot of imagination. A lot of imagination. It is not actually imagination, but because we cannot feel that, we have to now fake it, fake or imagine it, so ultimately that we can feel it. So a lot of imagination, or a lot of bhavana, we will talk through those in even more words of, when we talk about Kundalini, when we talk about the chakras, when we talk about where these Panjabhutams are really clearly, you can feel it in the body. So all those things, that when we talk about that bhavana in the upcoming slokas, so that bhavana is also needed. So you have to now start thinking, having that Devi is the one that is within you, creating the Spandanam called as you. So some Spandanam created you. So you have to feel that Spandanam within you. So imagine that, do the bhavana, while you are doing the chanting, while you're doing everything, right? So those are the three things. So we need to have a shraddha, a good attention to whatever we are doing, including the meditation, chanting, the bhavam, the attitude with which we are doing, and the bhavana, the imagination or visualization. With that, we can go into the mantras. You can do the Guru. Why don't we all do? You don't have to unmute, but let's chant Guru Ganesha and then the mantra for 18 times, and then we learned the 97. This time, for this 1 week, you can do the one time chanting of the one that you already learned, but then you have another new verse that you will do the chanting of 10 times. Okay? So let's sit straight, sit tall. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshal Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. ॐ नमः शिवाय. 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 Very good. We'll chant the 97 first. Giramahurdevim druhina grihinimagamavido hare patnim padmam harasahachari madritanayam turiyakapitvam duradigamanissima mahima mahamaya vishwam Brahmayasi Parabrahma Mahishi. Now, verse 27. We'll chant first, we'll go through the meaning, and then we'll chant one more time again. Japo Jalpa Shilpam Sakalamabhimudra Virachana Gadi Pradakshinya Kramanam Ashanadhyahuti Vitihi प्रणामसंवेश सुखमखिलम् आत्मार्पणदृशा सपर्यापर्याय tava bhavatu yanme vilasitam. Japo jalpa shilpam. Japo jalpam. The jalpa means any utterings that I do. Let it become your japam. So we are telling to Jagannatha that with Atmarpana Drisha, this last word of the third line, with Atmarpana Drisha, with that attitude of surrendering, attitude of dedication. With that attitude, what am I doing? I'm doing any jalpam. Any jalpam means any word that I'm talking, any utterings that I do, let it becomes the japam to you, mantra japam to you, Amma. Then says shilpam sakalamapi. Anything that I'm doing with the hands, mudra virachana, let it becomes a mudra towards you. So in puja, you might have seen the pujaris do a lot of mudras. This is very similar to the mudras that are used in nritta dances. Adi Shankaracharya is saying anything that I'm doing with the hands, let it becomes a mudra to you. Next is Gadi Pradakshinya Kramanam. Gadi is wherever I'm walking, let that become a Pradakshina to you. Pradakshinya Kramanam. Then Ashanadya Hudividihi. Ashana means anything that I'm eating, let it becomes Ahuti to you. Ahuti is the anything that you are doing the fire sacrifice. So anything that I'm eating, let it be a fire sacrifice to you. Pranama samveshaha. Samvesha means lying down. My lying down becomes pranama to you. Let it be a prostration to you, pranamam to you. And then sukhamagilam atmarpanadasha. So anything, all these things, he talked about 5 things. So whatever I'm talking, let it be a japam to you. Whatever I'm showing with hands, let it be a mudra to you. Wherever I'm walking, let it be a pradakshinam. Pradakshinam is the circumambulation. So when you go in the temple or the things, the Kailasha, or did you do the pradakshinam? And then Ashanadya Hudividi. Anything that I eat, let it be the fire sacrifice to you. Anything that anytime that I'm sleeping, let it be a namaskara or what do you call the pranamam to you. Then he says, Saparya paryaya tava bhavadu yenme vilasidam. Bhavadu yenme vilaside. Anything that I do. Yet that becomes saparya paryayam. Saparya is not just a puja or meditation for one day. Saparya is it's a tapas. It's something that you are doing for a long duration of time. So something that you are going to do on every day. So that is saparya for a long duration of time. You are doing that puja, whatever that upasana, that is what is called saparya. So anything that I do, let it be saparya to you. So that is where this is very similar to what you might have guessed in those who learned the Bhagavad Gita, very similar to karmanye eva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalahe durbuhu ma te sangusta karmani. So it's that like whatever is the result of whatever the action that I'm doing, let it be offering to you, right? Same thing with the Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, that same mantra. So here it is, Shankaracharya is saying that it is a very practical approach of karma yoga. So anything that you do, tomorrow you're making a coffee, you're sitting with your the child, taking care of him, her, you are doing a presentation at your work, whatever you're doing, let it be an offering to Amma. Amma, I'm doing this for you. So with that bhavam, you do that. That is where you are feeling that Spandanam, that Jagannatha that you are feeling within you. It's one way is that whatever action that you're doing, do it with that bhavam. That is one way to experience that Amma within you, that Jagannatha within you. With that, I want to stop and then see if you have any questions.